Testing, testing. Might as well record the good stuff too. Yeah. Testing out this new format. What do you think? Yeah, buddy. I got this little green screen. I'm not confident in this green screen. So, thus the test. I'm testing out this new format using what I got. I got this green screen with not the greatest of setup, and I have a bunch of ideas on how to use it and stuff. But I wanted to have this little conversation. One, because I just have something to talk about. If I'm going to test the green screen, I might as well make a video. I just feel like there's a lot of people that have a dream, and we're kind of sold this American dream as we grew up. I'm a millennial, and I think Gen Z and the generation before that. My sister's kind of on the cusp of the two generations. I think we're a lot alike. I think a lot of stuff happened before we were born, and now because of the way power is distributed and the way that old people just won't step down. I don't want to say like a lot. It doesn't matter like if you're right winged or left winged. I gotta say, when it comes to the candidates of all kinds, there's a lot of guys that like remind me of people that I've seen in senior homes. When the president sounds like my grandma before she died having dementia, things are scary. And I never wanted to like run a political channel or anything like that. And I don't want to like get divisive of what you believe or what I believe, but when it comes to like the old generation stepping down and the new generation taking the place, it feels like it's not happening the way that it should, and I feel like I'm not alone in that. And I don't want to blame all the problems on that either. My sister, right? She calls the older generation boomers all the time, and yeah, they're boomers. But I've also heard people my age being called boomers, and people in their 40s or whatever being called boomers. And I just think it's another way to divide people. There's dickheads in every generation, There's good people in every generation. It doesn't really matter when you were born. The experiences that we had as children, maybe it does make a little bit of a difference. There's certainly different stories that I could tell that might be different between being a millennial and being Gen Z or being a boomer. The millennials, obviously, like when I first was growing up, I mean, I remember talking my parents into getting a wireless phone, and I was so excited about having a wireless phone. I must have been like 6 or something. I guess I'm showing my age, right? Like cell phones were around, but we were poor people, so like I seen him. I think my uncle had like a pager or something. I missed the whole pager era. Nobody really had cell phones. Then my dad had a cell phone. Well, first we had that wireless phone, and that was cool. And then my dad had a cell phone because he runs his own business, and he had one of those big Nextel. This is back before Sprint bought Nextel. Nextel? I think it was called Nextel. And it was like a walkie-talkie and a cell phone. I never got one. Most people didn't, like kids didn't have them, right? Like some kids had them, but I didn't have them. Like as we used to call preppies, used to have them, which I don't like to say that word anymore because everybody's an individual, and there's people that are brought up very rich that are very, very nice people, and I've been friends with some. There's a few that are like good friends of mine, and none of them are like billionaire rich, because even like the rich kids in hindsight were not all that rich. When you were a kid and being a millennial, I mean, it was kind of in the table, like everybody just made fun of everybody. I was dyslexic, I am dyslexic, have other weird issues and stuff as everybody does, and I got made fun of a lot too. So I was made fun. I was bullying, and I was a bully. It was, that was growing up as a millennial, I suppose. But I'll tell you what, kids are rough now too. Like, and I grew up in a rural area, so maybe my childhood is a little more boomery than others. But being a millennial, we grew up in a time where there wasn't very much technology, and then by the time I was in high school, there was technology everywhere. Like the last couple of years of high school, I did have a cell phone. I had one of those flip phones. Then the smartphone came out shortly after high school. Eventually, I got iPhone 4, and remember being on the playground with one of my best friends way back in the day, and we were talking about how cool it would be if there was something the size of a Game Boy with like Nintendo 64 graphics or something like that. I think it was actually Super Nintendo graphics we were talking about. As an adult, by the time, I think it was like 18, 19 or something, the iPhone 4 or whatever. I don't know what one. I lose track of time. But whenever I got my first iPhone, which was the iPhone 4, I was like blown away. I was like, this is it, dude. Like, we got Super Nintendo graphics. Gen Z was born into that, and I'm glad that I wasn't. I do think, a lot, like with social media addiction and all that, like I'm really glad that I wasn't. And I do feel like millennials have this like tolerance to it that other generations don't. Not saying that we're tolerant to it, because I'm terminally online at this point, but maybe we have like just a little bit more resistance than both the older generation, which just like kind of don't know any better. It's like they don't necessarily like, and I'm talking very broadly in general, because there's some older people that know way more about everything than I do, and there's certainly younger people that do as well. The way that we were brought up into it, where it wasn't very good, and we learned how to use what we got, and by the time everything was good, we still know how to go into settings and mess around, and I mess around with Linux and stuff. But that's also like my friend group and the stuff that I'm into online, so I have a skewed point of view. I'm just saying, like, there is a difference between different generations, but at the same time, there's not. People are people, and there's dicks and nice people in all the generations. But I do think there's something to be said about the transferring of power, the election year, whatever. We have two parties. like in my state, they send you the primary thing, and it's like you have two boxes to check on. There's nobody even there. Like you have two you can't even register as whatever, an independent or Green Party or whatever. I don't even know the names of any of the parties anymore. They've never been in the debates my entire life. One of the first elections that I remember was historical, and every single election since then has been historical, because the first person I remember that was actually president was Bill Clinton, and I was like a child, right? I was like first grade or something. It was like Monica Lewinsky was like popping off, but the first like election that I really remember, and I wasn't old enough to vote or anything, Gore and Bush and how crazy that was, and it's like ever since then, I've never done a video like this. Elections are now polarizing, and I always joke around, and this is something that, I'm only going to say this ever in this video, but when I was a kid, Sonny, politics were corrupt and stuff, probably just as much as they are now, but they hid it a lot better. Now it's like everything's like so obviously corrupt, no matter what you believe, right? And I feel like both sides want a lot of the same stuff. The level of the corporations owning the world is so great that they don't even try to hide it anymore. Everybody kind of knows it. Maybe they try to hide it. Maybe people don't know this. I don't know. But in my circle of people, it seems like everybody knows the corporations pretty much own the planet, and there's nothing really we can do about it. So now I'm going full circle. We grew up with these like I always say that the millennials aren't the millennials. We're the Disneyland generation. We grew up, we thought that, we'd get a job or we'd find a passion, more like it, and we'd live happily ever after. And we're sold that dream on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, whatever, even the tech CEOs, Bill Gates, hear these stories, right? Steve Jobs, these amazing people. And the truth is, like, that's such a rarity. It's such a rarity that 99% of us, no matter how hard we work, maybe if we're lucky, we'll be able to support ourselves. But most of us don't have retirement. And if we do, it's very little. Most of us, even the most successful of my friends, don't own their own house unless they married into it. But but even them, they're struggling, man. They're my most successful friends, and they're smart people that work very, very hard. And it's like you have to be, I don't know what you have to be, because there are successful people, and it does feel like there's like this exponential growth period where, like, if you start something at the right time, at the right place, and you do all the right things and work really, really hard at it for a long time, like, that's the story, right? That's the story you hear from social media. It's, starting an Etsy shop or starting a YouTube channel or a tech company or startup, whatever, right? Even like a landscaping business. I've done a few of these things. I'm starting an Etsy shop again, right? I sort of started one before. I have numerous YouTube channels. I've ran trying a landscaping business off and on since I was like a teenager. And I'll tell you what, man, it's a lot of work, and it's hard to get any bigger than small. With the landscaping business, there's been times that I was like working and working, but what I've realized is like, one, I really don't like doing that work, and two, like the only way to really grow is to get a lot of people working for you. With YouTube, though, I do feel, a little stressed, and I need money in my life right now. I'm definitely broke, and I'm not complaining because I know, well, I am complaining a little bit, but I know a lot of people are in the same boat. So it's not like, oh, woe me. It's just, yeah, I'm just expressing my feelings because I'm testing out my crappy green screen back here. I'm just mind melding now.
Minds are merging, Doctor.
I learned how to edit. Like I did a lot of partying, we'll say, for many years, and said kind of screw it, because like a lot of these things I've sort of mentioned in this video, I've always have been on my mind for a very long time, and I screwed off in life for a long time. But when I stopped, when I found, my dog is a big part of what helps me. Like I stopped before that, but I was struggling, and then when I got my dog, she like gave me purpose. And I've made videos about purpose before on this channel. Go watch them. They're much more edited and scripted. Some of them. Once I found my purpose, then I realized like I'd always been into filmmaking, and a lot of people on social media, well, it's actually not that many, but there's enough where that's like, you've heard that story before. Well, I fit that story, like skateboarding, filmmaking, dogs, I guess. That's my passion, and that's what I want to do. So I committed myself to that, and I learned a skill, and I'm a good editor. Like, and I am tooting my own horn, right? But I'm confident at being an editor. I'm also like quite antisocial, which is a big part of like why it's hard for me to put myself out there unless it's to a video camera. Learning this new skill, thinking that like if I got good enough at it, that I'd be able to find jobs, but I'm bad at the finding the job thing. I know if I found the right job video editing, but then AI comes, and like, in 5 years, will we even need video editors? And I'm learning all the AI stuff too, and all these new skills, and I really do love it. I do, but I also spend all my money on it. And I was kind of hoping that at some point that it would pay me. But now I feel like it is a dream. It is another one of those Disneyland dreams that I may or may not ever be actually financially successful at. So that leads me to trying to start this Etsy shop. And I'm not passionate about it, but maybe it will work. And why don't I go get a job at McDonald's? Because one, it doesn't pay enough. And two, I don't want to throw my life away to these big corporations and stuff. I'm going to continue to do my landscaping, and as much as I don't really like landscaping, I'd rather work for myself than a dick. I don't know what I'm getting at with all this, but I think a lot of people feel similarly to some of the things I've said in this video. If you did, or even if you didn't and you just enjoyed, remember to like, subscribe, and I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you in the next life. Also, I'm going to be putting out my new channel soon with the green screen. It's going to be crazy, and nobody but people from this channel, and maybe a few others, will know who I am, what I'm really doing and stuff, because it's going to be all mystical. It's going to be like futuristic, bro. Yeah, like and subscribe. Really uplifting content. I swear I'm going to try to make it more uplifting next time. What do you think of the new format? I think it's going to get better. I promise it'll get better. I'm going to think it out farther. I'm going to think it out farther. Try to make it more uplifting. Insights.